Welcome to the A to Z Golfing Podcast presented by AM Golf Trips. Follow the entire 2023 season at amgolftrips.com and swagseries.com. With Andy Cezanne, I'm Anthony Zampano, joining us all the way from Scottsdale, Arizona. We got to be quick with this because he's got a tee time at some exclusive country club. Kenny McGinley, how are you out there, buddy?
I'm doing great, boys. I'm honored to be here with the two legends of A to Z.
Thank you.
Legends.
Thank you.
That's Andy.
In your own mind.
I'm definitely not.
Yeah,
People
talk
are just
too
trying
much
to get
during
rid of
this.
me from talking. So.
You are the wiener legend in the swag community, and don't let anyone tell you differently.
The Wiener King of Chicago.
We were talking before we started. 53 degrees today out there.
It's practically a snow day here. I'm surprised I haven't got a call canceling our tee time yet. We're hoping the sun pokes through and we get a little bit of warmth, but we might have to grind one on with some mitts today.
That's a heat wave here in Chicago.
Anyone who thinks I won't have at least 4 hand warmers on me today is totally wrong.
Well, it plays into who you are. You're very high maintenance. So
soft was the word I was going to go with.
Okay. I think that even goes hand in hand with high maintenance. But hey, I'm high maintenance too. It's okay. So is there a limit to the temperature you'll play at now that you've been out there?
Well, I think we're 3 degrees away from it. Honestly, if I hadn't agreed to the tee time before I saw the weather, I probably would have, faked an excuse. I think 65 is normally the bottom ceiling that we play golf in here. But I haven't played in a while. I'm like, I got to freshen up the game before Torrey Pines. Like, we got a tough one out here.
How many years have you been out there?
Officially 30 now. I'm born and raised here.
I mean, obviously, you. If I'm tracing that back, knowing how old you are, you started playing golf strictly out in Arizona, correct?
Yeah.
So originally, for anybody that doesn't know, he can tell you more. But from the East Coast, I believe Connecticut, as far as I know, in the friend Rolodex.
Yeah, I mean, that was the last 11 summers that I would spend back there, trying to escape our 125-degree oven here. And prior to that, we would escape with family to Iowa during the summers. So I've kind of got a little mix of Midwest, East Coast, and, we try to not play favorites to any part of the country.
Really cool. So, like, everyone out there that's been following our schedule knows that we're going to be at Weekapaw in a few weeks. We've got a trip out there. It's also a swag series event on that Monday. One of the things that I want to know, I've played some golf in Arizona, not as much as you from being there. Give us some of the differences between Arizona golf, Midwest, East Coast.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and no advertisement here. Weekapaw is genuinely a hometown favorite for all of us in Arizona. I think you ask anyone what a top public course or top just course in general is here, Weekapaw is a go-to. And I think one of the normal responses as to why is it's absolutely gorgeous out there. Everyone is fascinated by the desert beauty, the mountain look, the rolling deserts. Like, personally, I think it's hideous because I stare at it every single day when I wake up. I'm fascinated by green trees and a little bit of water and, grass that's naturally grown. But I think we're all, a fan of things we don't see every day. The difference is, I mean, like the ball bounces here. The ball flies a little bit further here. Your clubs are never in good shape after the day you buy them because you're hitting off of rocks and desert, or at least I am because I tend to not play from fairways very often. Every time I've got a friend come into town that's never played golf here, like, you have to give them the instruction when they go look for the ball in the desert. Be like, hey, there are things out there that will kill you. They don't want to kill you, but you should probably be mindful that they will. I don't think I've ever had that like warning giving to me walking through the trees in the Midwest, like going through the trees looking for my ball to punch out near Chicago. Like, nobody's ever told me like, hey, make a lot of noise and scare whatever critters away from you. I mean, that's like the obvious difference. I think course wise, design wise, like our golf here is much newer than East Coast and Midwest. You play some courses, when's Elgin founded? Like 150 years ago?
1901.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what was here in 1901? literally nothing. Like we weren't a state yet. I don't think golf was being played in Arizona yet. So design features, like obviously a lot newer. They were built,
Yeah.
with different machinery, different people building them. Um, Obviously different landscape. Moving rocks and deserts a little different than moving, trees and meadows. But it's just I'm just a fan of any new experience in that, and I think a lot of people are too. If you're playing Elgin every day, you're going to be fascinated by Weekopaw. If I play Weekopaw every day, I'm more than fascinated by Elgin.
Really quick here. So you mentioned to watch out for things in the rocks. I'm going to be in the rocks taking pictures. What am I looking out for here?
Um, you really want me to tell you, or
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
go online? I mean, obviously, the number one fear everyone has here is rattlesnakes.
Okay.
They are real.
Uh,
They will be probably out in early April. That's kind of when they're all coming back out of winter hibernation. Mountain lions, javelinas. You won't see any Gila monsters out there. Scorpions, spiders. The big one is the snakes. They blend in nicely. They go out for sun during the day.
so
Um,
little fact about Andy, I am terrified of snakes, and I will
Dude, we'll
not be
find
going in
one
the
for you.
rocks then.
Come on, we'll find
Well,
one for you. We'll put it in the back of your
everyone loves
cart.
a good Hemelina, so we got that going for us.
Yeah, no, and the rookie mistake is you're gonna walk through the rocks like tiptoeing around, like, oh, they won't hear me, they won't see me. In fact, all you got to do is just kick your feet around, spray some rocks around, clap your hands, make a bunch of noise, and if they're there,
Yeah.
they'll tell you they're there.
Okay.
And if they tell
You
you
do
they're
the
there,
Macarena.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Gotcha.
But if you sneak up on them, then they're gonna react in a defensive mechanism, and we don't want that.
Okay.
Don't worry, we'll help you
This
out,
this
Andy.
is this is perfect because, as much as Andy just said that he's going to be spending time in the rocks, it's not taking photos that he's going to be spending time in the rocks. Andy is going to be participating in this event.
Yeah,
So
I just found out.
and listen, I am
Oh,
not going in the rocks, but I'll have my speaker with me, so they'll probably scatter. So for Andy, why don't you just kind of let Andy know what to expect from the golf course so that he can prepare for the tournament that he's going to be playing with Joe Corsi?
oh boy. Well, I can't prepare you for Joe Corsi. I'm not sure anyone can. Weekopod, like I said, Weekopod's a treat, and I'm not getting paid by Am Golf or anyone to promote that. It is a local favorite. It's a treat. They take great care of it. It's one of the best conditioned public courses we have here. And beauty wise, like there's no homes on it. You're out in the desert, and it just like it rolls over the hills. You've got cactus out there. Um, like every single hole looks pretty good there.
All right. Well, I think the biggest thing for Andy is going to be the putting. Okay. I've been saying this for all the years that we've been doing this, which is effectively about a year and a half. He's got his putter upstairs on the nice swag golf mat. Um, give him an idea. And I say this because, you're kind of not a good putter, but you could help him, Kenny. You could just let him know what to expect out there.
I mean, I told him I think for every golfer there is a distance that you will not miss a putt from. My solution to bad putting is always hit the ball closer. Hit
Yeah.
your drive farther, hit the ball closer, and then putting's an irrelevant part of the game. Now, for every person, that's a different distance. It might be inside of a foot for Andy, but just hit it there, and you'll won't miss any putts. It doesn't
I
matter what greens you're playing.
I think I've missed quite a few 1-footers too. I think it's probably about
All
a
right,
6 inch
6 inches.
radius.
All right,
I think
yeah,
6
hit it
inches is where I
closer.
can get to. Yeah.
Yeah, just hole out, right? Like it's so much easier than putting.
Andy, I think
I
you're
should
ready.
try that. I should try holing out instead.
So we were fortunate enough to go. It was funny because I called Kenny last year, and I think he had just done a trip to Pinehurst, and we were getting ready to go again. And it took some like persuasion to get him to go again. But that was like our first real experience together. We got to room together. We got to play. I had never seen him play golf. So we'll start with that. If anybody has met Kenny and has seen him hit a driver, it's amazing. Like I'm not somebody that drives the ball all that well, But to watch it and to watch how we talked to our caddy when he was like, "Oh, it's like 240 or 250 to cover that side," and you weren't listening. I was listening because you were just blowing the ball over all of that stuff. I had a great time. It was great to be with somebody that had already been to Pinehurst because we got to, walk the courses and understand. And the one day we played with Brian and Joe, and it was fantastic for me to be there with somebody that had already had a Pinehurst experience. But it was like this rooming together. I mean, everything, dinners together. It was really a great time, and it's led into the other stuff that we've done. I just did a trip out to Arizona. He got to show me around the TPC. We've now started to get into like the swag trips that everyone has been doing. So we'll start with there. Kenny, me and you've told me about so many places that you have traveled. Let's start with Pinehurst and where it ranks for you as a whole in your golf destination list.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm glad you brought up me and caddies with drivers because I do think that I leave every single caddy with a good experience because I think I make at least one good impression on them or I hit a terrific drive at some point. And on the flip side, I also show every single one of them a new part of the golf course that they've never seen before. My caddy on number 2 at Pinehurst has literally caddied there since 1954 and guarantee he saw somewhere new that day that he did not know was on the Pinehurst property. Just a couple weeks ago at Shadow Creek, I did manage to find a water hazard that my caddy did not know was in play on the very first hole we played. I'm fortunate to bring those experiences to my caddies wherever I play golf.
You're a giver.
Yeah, I try to make it all inclusive. Back to Pinehurst. Yeah, I went in May. My girlfriend went with her friend somewhere around the world. I don't know, and that meant free golf trip for Kenny, like without any guilt associated with it. So naturally, we took advantage of that, and a buddy of mine and I met at Pinehurst, and we played way too much golf there during that week. You called. I wasn't overly excited about going back, and then you twisted my arm by like, oh, but it's with me and some other people that I was fond of. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. Pinehurst number 2 is without a doubt the most difficult golf course I have played on my list. I've been fortunate, as you said, to play a lot of places around this country and some very, very nice and noted difficult golf courses that have hosted many major championships and Ryder Cups, etc. Nowhere is harder than that place. Probably just for me because the green complexes and like if you miss a green, it's just a nightmare. Other people probably don't find it as difficult. Number 2 is beyond difficult, but it is a great treat because of the history and everything. And especially playing with my 85-year-old caddy that day who, has been there through 3 ownership changes and, since before my parents were born, like it was a cool day. Number 4 is a gorgeous golf course. Probably my favorite not probably, without a doubt, my favorite on the Pinehurst property. Number 8 was cool, just reopened. The greens were harder than my terrace out here, patio pavers right now.
Yeah.
So it was a little quirky that day. But I will say I enjoyed it much more this time than when I went in May. And I think it was with a better group of people, going to the pub down the street. Like it is fun that you stay in the hotel and you can walk everywhere you go. It's an amazing complex. Like the amount of golf bags that gets circulated around there on a daily basis, like was just fascinating to watch how they logistically coordinate all that. Like there's not many people sitting still at Pinehurst.
No.
They're there for a mission and they're there to play golf and they get everyone playing a lot of golf. I think the best part of that trip, honestly, and you might agree with me, was Pine Needles. Like,
Yeah, I was
played
literally going to bring this
Mid-Pines.
up.
Yeah, I had played Mid Pines the first time I went, but Pine Needles was hosting the Women's U.S. Open when I was there in May. The next week, so we didn't get to play Pine Needles. And so I made a point to you when we were planning stuff. I was like, we have to play Pine Needles. And the only thing they had available was like a 3:30 tee time. And the sun was going down at like 5:30. And then we messed up the time change a little bit when we booked it. somehow we finished all 18 holes, most of them in sunlight.
Yep.
We played at a rapid pace. Uh, that golf course was an absolute treat. That is very high on my list of places. Unfortunately, I cannot attend the Swag Series event there because I will be out of the country that time. But Pine Needles is like, given the choice to go to Pinehurst area, like Pine Needles is the top of my list of where I'd want to play again.
Well, it was great turning it into sort of like a little scouting trip, right? I remember when we first talked about it, you were adamant about going there, and then obviously getting to see it and be able to play Pinehurst and then play Pine Needles, and then I think we played 8 the next day. It gave us like a good vantage point of like what an event could be out there, right? I mean, your insight
Yeah.
into Weekapaw helped Pine Needles and some of the other things, and it was really cool because we got to do, you know, we've been fortunate enough to do Big Cedar. You know, you got to see Big Cedar. We've seen Pinehurst. We just got back from the Swag Off event out in Las Vegas, and now it's starting to get. Swag Series is going to be starting here in a couple weeks. It's going to be red hot out of the gate. I mean, Torrey Pine South, and you're talking about that, and then hopping over to what you described in Weekapaw. I think it's spread out really good, and I know that you and I have had so many conversations about other golf associations and what they do for four ball, and you know some of the stuff that we're starting to see with the Swag Series just has such implications on the community and continuing to build it, right? And yeah, it's hard to keep up with everybody out there that wants to email and wants to get you in a Facebook messaging group and all that stuff. And I know that you're also a part of that. But one of the biggest things that you've always talked to me about and I've talked to you about is growing the community. And I know you've been around it. So I kind of want to ask you, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to from the Swag Series in 2023?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess like when I first found swag, I had no social media. And obviously collecting swag is what got me here to this point, met you, Andy, etc. When I first found swag, I had no social media. I had to make it to follow along and be able to get stuff. I think it's well documented that I'm still not a big social media participant in terms of in the forums and everything. Um, and after the Big Cedar event, which I was very much looking forward to, we were going to do, I think there was going to be a live event a couple years ago, and then obviously COVID and everything delayed all that. And so Hazeltine was a good start, and then Big Cedar was that and then some. And I played my last round there with Adam Gardner, and I told him, I said, you know what? Full disclosure, before this week, I was losing my momentum in swag. Like I was kind of over it a little bit. I was like, all right, it's the same thing for 4 years now of like, wait for the release, buy it, put it on my shelf. Wait for the release, buy it, put it in my closet. Like that was it. Like I'd met a couple people that online I'd liked talking to and had some friends that were into it. But I was just like not amused with it anymore. Like I could get whatever I wanted, or if I didn't, I was frustrated. Like those were the two end results. And the Big Cedar one was fun because it was different than that. Like, yeah, we came away with cool stuff that everyone ultimately probably went there for, but I got to play golf with different people and met some new friends there that now we communicate with almost on a daily basis. Obviously, you're a part of one or multiple of those groups. And it was just like a reinvigoration of the brand and liking, being a part of it, because it was just another layer to it. It wasn't just purchasing or trying to buy on Apple Pay on a release. It was, we get to go there, talk about it, meet someone, play some golf, travel together with like-minded individuals, which ultimately isn't that what you do anyways. Like when I went to Pinehurst in May with my other buddy, we went because we're like-minded individuals wanting to go on a golf trip. This was the same thing. Vegas obviously catapulted that again. Those events I get are on a different level for everybody. Those are higher price tag events. Those are higher commitment events because it's multiple days and possibly a tough time getting there for someone. The 1 day swag series is exciting because I think it opens the doors for a lot of new people. Like I think most everybody theoretically could make a 1 day event, especially if it's in your backyard. If you're a Scottsdale guy and you're playing Weekopods 1 day, it's It's 18 holes of golf. Most people make time for that. But to have the miniature version of those connections, meeting people, like-minded individuals, um, it's going to open the doors, I think, for a lot of people that maybe couldn't do Vegas or Big Cedar, and just kind of grow that community, grow that excitement even more.
Yeah, you like build levels, right? Um, I mean, all the stuff that everyone has been seeing, and from all the events that we have run through AM golf trips, with swag support and vice versa, you see it, and when you start to lay out an entire day, a 1 day tournament, it's like, how do you maximize the experience, right? I mean, we've always talked about it. It's always about the experience. When we ran events, and it's been well documented, it's like people come, people leave. How do you entertain,
Yeah.
right? And I think that the biggest thing at the Vegas trip, and everyone that we've been on, is the Super Bowl party. Like, the golf led into the Super Bowl party, and then you have all that going on, and then you get to Shadow, and it's like you have that, and then there's the food, and then we tried to light up the putting green, and then we're lighting up the golf course, and we're doing all that stuff. Now, we're not saying we're going to do that every Swag Series event, but I think that the understanding that participants want more, right? They don't want to just show up, meet a few new people, maybe just have a bite to eat and leave. The introduction of Tacoma Golf on the range, and the putting contest as usual, and all the different sponsors that are going to be involved along the way, is really going to give people that all day feel like I'm not being rushed. I get to hang out and meet everybody, and I think that is in totality what everybody wants in this community, right? I think we've gotten to the point, like you said, it's 4 years in, 5 years in, meeting new people and sharing in those experiences, whether you're traveling from out of town to a Torrey Pines, or if you're from the East Coast and you just want to stay in your backyard. I think continuing to build it, we've laid the groundwork, right? And the Swag Series just continues to build it.
100%. I think you said it on the last episode with Andrew Schmidt about like the bus rides in Vegas, like how those were a cool opportunity to meet new people, which you were spot on. Like, I met people sitting behind me and next to me on those rides. Maybe the rides home, not so much, because I think I was the only sober one on the bus. No comment there. But it's to your point, when you're playing golf, you're with four people, you're riding in the cart next to one of them. So yes, you develop a good relationship with that one person throughout the 4 hours, 5 hours, hopefully no more. And other than that, you're not really talking to anyone else when you're there, unless you already know them, or you sit next to them during lunch or something. And so by doing the putting contest and all the others, like, it just gives more time for that experience, which I think is a big part of it. Like, I wouldn't have bought into that so much a year ago until after the Big Cedar one. When I went to the Hazeltine event, like, it was my goal to not talk to anyone that I didn't already know. And I pretty much accomplished that goal. And then at the Big Cedar one, like, I went there by myself without really knowing anyone, and getting paired with a couple people. And the first night we had dinner, I was like, "Who is this guy?" And you and Rob were like, "Oh, that's Big Mike. You're gonna love him." And you're like, the next day I ride in the cart with him, and you're correct. I loved him. He's awesome.
Yes.
The last day I played with in Swiderska, and honestly, I kind of always thought I didn't like him. Didn't have a real reason why. I just saw his name a lot, and I think that meant I didn't like him. And it turns out he's one of the nicest human beings on the planet. And so, like, it's turned out to be a good thing that, like, the more opportunity to hang out with those people, and whoever Quinn's then friends with, like Chris Laporte, I was like, cool. And that web of connections and friendships just continues to grow. And imagine that's going to look like after all these events this year. Obviously coming off of Vegas. Hopefully there's another cool collectors event this year. That rivals Big Cedar from last year. And, by the time you fast forward 5 years down the road, like, imagine what this community is going to look like. I think it already puts all the other collectors and golf trip communities to shame, but, like, holy cow, imagine 5 years from now what it's going to do.
Yeah, we're just making a melting pot for golfers here. I think what we're trying to do. We got, the swag community coming together, and then we have our old, I guess you want to say, clientele coming in too. They're introducing them to swag and making hopefully new lifelong swag fans.
I'm
It's
telling Joe
it's real
Corsi
fun.
you called him old.
Joe, Joe.
Not my partner.
Yeah, no, I'm telling him right on the first tee of week up. Like, hey, Joe, Andy called you old. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, but going back to it's like-minded individuals.
Yeah,
Obviously, whenever I'm not here with golf, like my world revolves around hockey, and doesn't necessarily matter the age bracket. I've got guys who are twice my age that are involved with hockey. Guys younger than me involved with hockey. That's who I'm playing golf with today. Like, we get along over the bond of liking hockey, playing hockey, coaching hockey, whatever it is. And it's just that like-minded individual thing. Golf's a little harder than for that in a normal base because you play with your three people. People tend to only play with their same friends. If you belong to a club, you play with the same people there. And if I wanted to go play, like the first time I did Pinehurst, like it's me and one other guy that were willing to go in that time frame. It's hard to accumulate a group of friends large enough to go do those things. So what you guys do is you put it together, and anyone who wants to go there, okay, well, we already have a bond because we made the conscious decision to go there and play those golf courses. That means we already have something in common.
Yeah, and I also think, and I will give a lot of credit. Throughout the years of being in the golf industry, you see other companies running events that technically they're not running, right? They slap a name on them, they have somebody else run them, but the commitment from both sides, Swag Golf and AGT, is awesome because you see their dedication, right? You see that they want to have their people at events, right? And that even builds the experience. I mean, you see people gravitate towards an Adam Gardner, towards an Andrew Schmidt, towards a Frankie Ellingson at events. And now these people from the company are going to be randomly coming to different swag series events during the year. Like it's on top of it, right? I mean, we see the companies out there that they throw a spokesman out there, hey, a couple photos, that's great. But I think the dedication for everything, right? It's not
Yeah,
just we're going to take, we're going to come to this event or we're going to come to this event, right? Wanting to be a part of the community and within it, to your point, is 5 years from now,
yeah,
a community that is hopefully twice as big, three times as big, with more people wanting to meet other people, and that sort of like
yeah,
spider web effect that it comes off of it. And to me, I think that's the most exciting part. I mean, I think the swag series is like 2024 starting to think about it. You think in advance, but it's only as good as the people that are a part of it, right? And that, from the last person to sign up for a Vegas event to the first person to sign up to the Vegas event. And I think that is the beauty of it and where it's going.
for sure. And like, I know this is an AM golf podcast, so I don't want to like boast about swag too much, but
You can
um,
say whatever you want.
starting, I know. But back
it's
in
an A-to-Z
2018, like when
podcast.
I first started buying swag, like I was fortunate to meet their tour rep, and he invited me to go, to their office if I was ever in Chicago and like, meet everybody. And so I got to meet Nick Venson pretty early on, and Andrew and the whole squad there, which at the time was 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's what really like made me justify how psychotic I was for spending so much money on head covers and putters. Like, but it was the fact that they were like so cool and so nice and accommodating. Like they didn't want anything from me. They didn't care who I was, where I was from. They were just nice people, which I'm sure has a lot to do with being in the Midwest, and being a new startup brand that was just like they were just genuine people. And the cool thing about it is that they're still that way today. And so when you go to a Torrey Pines and Nick's there, and like you go talk, like he's the same nice, like ultimately I don't think he'll be offended if I say this, he's just a nerd. Like he is a genuine nerd. I mean, he collects pinball machines for crying out loud. Like, but that's who he is, and he's so authentic to everyone that comes up and meet him. Whether you have 500 of his head covers and you've paid his, electric bill for the years of existence of swag, or you have two of them, but you appreciate them to all end because that's all you can have. He treats everybody the same. And I guess not that I've ever collected any of the other brands, but I don't get the same vibe that like if I went to, I won't name any other brands, but if I went to another event, I don't think I'd have that same welcome feeling that I do from those people. Like, I could be wrong. I won't speak on it, but it just they appreciate whoever's in their community at whatever level. That if they made an effort to get to Torrey Pines or Weekopa or Latrobe Country Club, like they appreciate you being there and they appreciate you being part of the same journey that they're on.
How did you discover swag? And also, do you remember what your first cover was that you got?
Yeah. So I like I said, I didn't have my own social media, but I was logged into the hockey league here that I run. We had a social media account back in 2018, and I found this swag golf Instagram, and there was some cool skull covers pretty early on. I was like, those are cool looking. I want one of those. Go on the website, everything's sold out. I'm like, this company is not real. This is like an Instagram scam. This isn't a legit company. Saw it again a few weeks later, new cover come out. Okay, they came out with a new one. It must be real. Go on, sold out. Not a real company. Like, I don't understand what's happening here. Finally caught on to what was happening here. And it was like, oh, like releases sold out. Okay, I get it. The first thing I ever purchased was while having lunch in New York City. Brooke got so mad at me because I was staring at my phone the whole time. I was like, no, like I gotta try to get this. And it was the Handsome 2 putter that came out that I was able to snag first. So the chrome NASA skull was obviously the head cover associated with it. The first like head cover purchase, it was either Cart Sniper or the cocktails cover, whichever one of those came out first. And to avoid the bots, they put up a word search, and you had to look for the word in the word search, and that was the password to enter it. And I got that while I was on like the 8th hole of a golf course, and somehow got that. Um, then I had to obviously make my own Instagram so I could follow along, and obviously got better at purchasing, and got in the role where I just bought everything I could, not knowing why. But I think it was fun because I could. So yeah, that kind of started the addiction, and yeah, here we are now.
Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks in a row, Andy has gone to the question about head covers. Of course, he was trying to see if you were going to have the same response that initially Andrew did last week. So, um, we know that you got to get to a tee time. I can't wait to hear about the round. But we've been doing it this year. This week is Andy's week, so we're going to do story time with Andy now.
Yeah.
So
my
I'm
story is
excited for this because he skipped last week. So I'm
yeah.
super
Well,
pumped. I'm just gonna like sit back.
I
I think
wasn't ready.
I'm nervous.
No, you're nervous.
Is this story about me or just story in
No,
general?
no. It's a story in general.
Just a
This is
general
more
I'm
story.
excited. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you
I
had
want,
an embarrassing story about me that you
no,
watched me at
no,
some event or something. I was nervous.
no. Well,
Yeah, I saw
we can do
Kenny
a quick
coming over the
story
hole
about.
on the 7th hole, and he's supposed to be on the 3rd hole. Like, what was he doing there? All
No,
right,
one
now I'm
quick story
excited. Go
about
ahead.
Kenny is you won the putting contest at Hazeltine. That was pretty impressive.
I did.
But
Old
the
news.
story that I was going to bring this week was it's kind of for everyone. I want everyone to kind of reflect right now and like remember that one round that you think is your favorite round that you ever played. Mine, I'm going back to is it was a random Monday in October, and I got to go to White Pines in Bensonville with my dad. It's the first time he ever went out with me to the golf course, and it was a very hazy day. And I was working in portrait photography for schools at that time, so it was some random like hot dog day off. Who knows why we were off, but it was one of those gimmicky holidays. So I asked my dad like, "Hey, you want to come out with me?" He did, and it was the first round I shot 2 birdies in a row. By far the best feeling I ever had in my life, shooting 2 birdies in front of my dad. And then I realized I left my wedges at the course I was at over the weekend, which is in Swan Lake, which we just came back from the old company doing a Ryder Cup out that way. So
Yeah.
then after the round, I got to drive back like 2.5 hours with my dad, and then came back. It was just a great day overall. So my favorite memory is of a golf course was shooting around with my dad. I think I shot in the mid 80s, which was probably a first for me at that time. Spending the whole day with him, going to grab my wedges, and I just want everyone to remember, like, what brings you to this game. Like, that's the kind of stuff that sticks with me. That was probably 2013, and that's still one of my favorite rounds that I ever had. So yeah, it's just this
What
game is
kind of
so
gun
great.
did you
Like,
use to shoot the birdies?
oh,
Or like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually made a birdie.
Was that at
Well,
Schmidt's mini golf course? The birdies, back to back birdies.
No, I don't. I wouldn't get birdies on a putting course.
hey, don't. A lot of big news to come. Kenny and Anthony are hopefully going to put together a conglomerate for
Oh,
2024. We're not going to let anybody know, but
oh boy.
we'll probably start dropping
Always,
hints
you
here
should go
later on.
practice. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Hey, Kenny, we're going to let you go, man. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, more time spent coming in the future together, and Andy's going to send us off with where everybody can find us.
Yeah, find us on the A to Z Golfing Podcast on Instagram. You can find us at AM Golf Trips on Instagram, Facebook page, Twitter, and YouTube. Find us on YouTube, A to Z Golfing Podcast. Thanks for tuning in here, everyone, and thanks, Kenny, so much for taking your time out in your cold day you have there in Arizona, and coming on with us.
See you boys soon at Torrey.
Yep. See you, buddy.
You got it. Have a good day.